It's Wednesday, June 21st, 2017. I am JTG, James Thomas Green. I'm at a beach. I believe this is Pacific Grove. Pacific Grove's up the hill, but it could be Monterey. It's a beach I've been to many times before. The waves are a little more energetic than I expected. It was a pretty warm day today, but I guess there's some storms going on out there. And speaking of storms, let's talk about my life these days. So I may be repetitive based on some of the previous things I've said and written, but for completeness, I'd rather say things twice or three times than think I said them twice or three times but really never said it at all. I have been substitute teaching since October. I'm registered in 8 different districts now. I began teaching an 8th grade class at Chular, and then I went on from there. I started teaching in Alisal and Santa Rita and then Salinas District, and I'm registered in Washington District, although I've never worked there. And I'm registered at Millennium High School. I've worked there a couple of times. I believe I have taught students in every grade from TK. TK is transitional kindergarten, which is before kindergarten, through kindergarten all the way to 12th grade in various classes. Someone walking on the beach. And so I've taught at Alisal Elementary, not Alisal High School. I haven't registered at the high school district. And my reason is that I'm getting enough work at the elementary schools. I like dealing with the lower grades better than I do the higher grades. There is also an element of personal threat and safety. If a 3rd grader gets mad at you, there's not a lot they can do about it unless they happen to be in your neighborhood. A high school senior, on the other hand, they likely have access either to their own car or cars of friends. More in Salinas, they could probably take the bus. And they could toilet paper your house, they could destroy your car, they could well, nowadays they could dox you, steal your personal information and post it in some weird website somewhere. And other things that I don't want to give people ideas about what they could do. On the other hand, they pay a lot more. I'm also registered in Greenfield, which is about a 40-mile drive, 45-50 minutes depending on traffic each way, but they pay $60 more a day, so it's definitely worth the extra drive, at least at this point in my life. And teaching has been kind of a life-changing thing for me. For one thing, I've been making enough money to pay my rent. I am not wealthy by any means, and it's summertime, and whereas I do get an occasional summer school job from Greenfield, they're the only ones who have summer school, my income is not great, so I'm still, as I call it, one accident, one illness, one breakdown of my car from unemployment and perhaps homelessness. I would say at this point I probably about 3 months from homelessness. You know, if something happened where I didn't earn another dime, it'd probably take maybe 3, maybe 6 months, depending on circumstances. So I'm in no way secure in my life, and that's really been one of the biggest things I've been thinking about in my life. I'm still single, nobody in my life right now. There are a couple of maybes, but nobody that I would point to and say, yeah, this is the one. And even the maybes I have my doubts about. You know, wow, the waves are coming in big. So, puppies. My dog Delight had puppies about a month ago now. 20th, it should be 1 month ago today. They're 1 month old now, 4 puppies. The backstory there, Delight came to me a little over a year ago. She was on the front porch. On the day I came home, a taxi brought me home from Natividad Medical Center, where I'd spent about 2 weeks after getting a portion of my right foot cut off because it got infected. And she was on the front porch. I took her inside. She was about 4 months old, according to the vet who I took her to. She had no chip in her, and I debated taking her in to turn her into the animal shelter or something like that, but I decided to keep her in the long run. Partially because Norman had died. I guess he had probably died several months previously. Maybe about 6 months previously. And this was the first time in my adult life when I did not have a dog. In my life, maybe ever. Because my mother always had dogs. There might have been a brief period between the time a Cocker Spaniel she had died and then she got her first poodles, but it wasn't very long, and I was a kid at the time. And Dad has been gone for 2 years. That still tears at me really hard. So much I'm missing from Dad. I still, even now, have a hard time talking about him. A couple of days ago, Monday, I had an eventful day, and sometimes it's, as it was going on, I had a lot of suppressed emotions about what was happening. Basically what happened is I'd gone in to a new doctor. It was at 1033 Los Palos in Salinas, across from the hospital. I've been in this place numerous times, mostly with Mom or Dad. I don't remember. I think I might have gone there once or twice as my own patient. Actually, I think I did go there for chemotherapy. But anyway, it's been a long time since I'd been there, and the last time I'd been there was with Dad. And so walking in, I kept thinking of Dad and Mom. Since Dad has died, I think more and more about Mom than I used to. Because Dad, when Mom died, I was diagnosed with cancer soon afterwards, so I never really had time to grieve her before I was suddenly all consumed with my own life, my own potential death. And then Dad got sick, and I don't know how many nights and days I was agonizing over the many near-death scares he had in the following 15 years after 2000, the coma in 2000, when he almost died after several times having pneumonia. And when he had a part of his lung removed after what the luckiest fall he ever had, falling off the front porch. It was, I keep thinking about all the years, how many nights Dad would be in the hospital with pneumonia or recovering from one thing or another, and I'd be worried that he wouldn't make it through the night. I'd be waiting for the phone call to tell me that your father died. And then the final time, when Dad died, I was so exhausted. I had barely slept in days. The regret of things I should have done. I should have recorded him a lot more than I did, but Dad would be like, if I put the camera up, he'd just go silent. He wouldn't talk, or he'd get mad, or so. Still, I probably could have done something more. That if I hadn't been so tired and sick and weak all the time, I could have done a lot more. If Dad had not been such a cheapskate, I might have been able to hire help to get the house cleaned up. Get a professional, to come in and spend a couple of days to clean up the house, and then maybe come in once a week to clean it up. But no, he was like, oh, I'm not going to spend any money on that. You do it all. Never mind that I was disabled too. You're not disabled, you're just fat and lazy. But now it's just me. I'm pretty much alone. People do help me. I would have been homeless had not people been willing to contribute to various funds to help me get the car fixed, get a new transmission, help me make my rent, and I'm probably going to need to ask for help to get through the summer at this point. And so it's been a real stressful time. Summer, I don't know if I'll get much work this summer. I want to start selling things. I want to start reducing a lot of the stuff I have around the house. Dad used to call everything I own shit. That was his thing. Oh, what are you going to do with all your shit? Dad, it's not shit. It's not trash. I mean, I probably had more items than I need, but it wasn't like I was keeping bags of garbage. I just need to sell the stuff. The books. He used to say, why do you keep a book when you've already read it? Which I guess there is some small logic to that, if you're not a book person. Of course, in the modern era, with computers, well, I think books are going to come back at some level, because a book is something that doesn't change. And wouldn't you know it, somebody's coming up from behind.
His teacher, Francis, doesn't put away Michael's top ramen noodles.
Turn that off. I hate it when I go somewhere that I think is isolated and then people come and park right next to me. Of course, how isolated can it really be? So, car pulled up behind me there. So now what am I going to do with my life? I suppose the phrase closer to the end than to the beginning keeps coming through me, and it's probably true. I probably don't have much time left. Sometimes I wonder if I'm going to live through the night. Sometimes, going back to the doctor's visit, several days ago I had an instance, a problem that happened. where actually I was coming out of a theater. I just watched Wonder Woman, of all movies. I was walking out of the theater through the lobby, and all of a sudden I felt this sharp pain in my left calf. It felt like a bee sting. It felt so much like a bee sting that I went to, as I walked outside, I sat down on one of the concrete platforms outside and pulled up my leg, pulled up my pants on that leg, but pant leg, and started feeling around to see if there was a bug there. It felt, because I've been stung by bees and other insects. They'll get under my shirt or under my leg, and it's happened several times in my life. That's what it felt like, except there was nothing there. There was no swelling. There was no lump. Okay, and so I walked out into the car, and over the next few days, it persisted, this pain. And so I went to this doctor's appointment previously scheduled because I have diabetes. And kind of, it's just as I was leaving, kind of as an oh by the way, I'd almost forgot about it. I stood up, felt the pain, said, oh by the way, I have this pain. I described it to him, and he wanted me to go right then to, or as soon as possible, to have an ultrasound of my leg. He said it could be something called deep vein thrombosis. And the phrase is somewhat familiar to me. I didn't know precisely what it was. And so I looked it up. I ended up getting an appointment at 3 o'clock because I had a summer school job at Greenfield. I was going to end up supervising for only about an hour. Ended up 3 nonverbal special education children, and I ended up only working about 45 minutes, but I got paid for a half day, which is about $100. That wasn't bad, although one of the kids started screaming, and they had a styrofoam pool noodle, started whacking me with it. So it was kind of weird. Anyway, the appointment was at 3 o'clock, so I went to Greenfield, and I came back because I didn't want to cancel my job because I need the money. I didn't realize how serious it potentially was. I looked on my phone, the one I'm using to record this with, and I looked up deep vein thrombosis, and thrombosis, and it said that it is considered a medical emergency because basically it's a clot in your leg, and if you get a clot in your leg, parts of it could break off, and it could go to your lungs or your brain, and you could die pretty quickly. And basically all of a sudden I realized that I had a condition that I could be dead before the end of the day if I didn't get treated. So I went and got the ultrasound, and fortunately, and this is kind of unusual, that the guy doing the exam told me there was no sign of a clot in my legs. Doesn't mean there's not a clot, it just means it's not in the big veins. He said it could, possibly be intravenous, or it could be, or intramuscular, or it could be something else. It's slowly fading over time, but he told me that if he had found a clot, he would have sent me to the emergency room, and I wasn't prepared for that. I don't know why I shouldn't have been, but I would have had to call somebody to come in and take care of my puppies, who are only about a month old, and they need somebody to make sure that the mother gets fed anyway, right? They're still not eating solid food. That's still probably about a week away. But yeah, I went through the day thinking, am I about to die? And you know, my life is such that who knows? I mean, I could die on the way home, back to Salinas tonight. I could get rear-ended, front-ended. Maybe he's wrong. Maybe I will have a stroke or a heart attack, or somebody will shoot me. But I remember when I was interviewing the doctor, you know, remember I mentioned how I was so upset. Well, I was upset because of being in the same medical center that Dad had been in. It was bringing back so many memories. And I mentioned it to the doctor. I started talking about the last time I was here. I was with my father, and all of a sudden I just couldn't control myself. You know, I started tearing up and trying as hard as I could to keep from breaking up. And I wasn't successful because, you know, he noticed. He got me a tissue and we talked. And I mentioned that, you know, the last 2 years I've been working real hard, and that Dad had died. And when Dad died, the only reason I had for living was gone. That's how I phrased it. I didn't think about it. That's just what came out of my mouth. And he asked, "Did you ever?" So you know, it's understandable. He said, "Have you ever thought about hurting yourself?" And I said, "No. It's more that I just occasionally have this feeling of giving up." And that's the feeling I've had a number of times when there'll be, you know, I've tried, especially during the period when I was sending out resume after resume and going out to applications and interviews and not hearing anything back as far as jobs until I got the substitute teacher gig. And I wish I could say I was confident even about that. I mean, day-to-day substitutes, they need them desperately. But I've been given to believe and understand that that's not so much true of the more choice gigs, the long-term subs, what they call grade level release, which they hire them and they spend every day, get 5 days a week work, guaranteed every day for the school year. Special assignments. Those are the kind of things that go to those who know somebody who knows somebody, or, you know, and I'm still fairly new at all this. I am not really well known, I think, among most of the staff and administrators, because they'll see me come in, then I'll go out, and there are so many days that I'll go into a classroom and no teacher, administrator will come into the room, just me and the kids all day long. And so they don't see how I'm doing. They don't see the kids liking me. Sometimes I think it even backfires. I remember one time I made a return to a classroom. It was like some second graders, and it had been several months since I'd been there to this particular room. And I was taking over for a teacher who had training meetings that day, I believe. And so I walked in, and they all go, "Oh, Mr. Green, Mr. Green, I see some of you remember me." And the teacher was in the room, and I said, "I see some of you remember me." And one of the girls said something along the lines of, "How could we ever forget you, Mr. Green?" And then I heard the teacher kind of mumble, almost kind of angrily under her voice, "Yeah, how could they ever forget you?" And it was like, what? It was kind of, for me, it was kind of a strange thing, and I took it, and I don't know really how to take it, but my initial reaction, and even now, is that it was somewhat of a jealousy thing. You know, I spend all day with these kids, and they don't treat me like that. You spend one or 2 days with them, and they love you. And I guess there is that to being a sub, is that they just see me for a day or two, you know, whereas the day-to-day teachers see them every day. They build the ongoing relationships. I can only be like a Be like a migrating butterfly who flutters through their life for a day or two. So I'm here with the 4 puppies. Delight had 4 puppies. I named the first one Dorcas because I've been wanting to name something Dorcas. She's the first girl. I videotaped her whole birth, although I missed the actual moment of birth, partially because Dorcas was a breech birth, and she remained stuck with the afterbirth for a long time, and she was starting to turn blue, and I put the phone down to help Delight, and then Delight jumps out of the basket and off the bed, dragging Dorcas by the umbilical cord, and I'm just glad I was there and fast enough to grab her, because she probably would have ran at full speed, dragging the puppy around, either killing it or injuring it. As it is, I'm kind of concerned because Dorcas is the smallest of the litter, which I hope is just some kind of a coincidence. But she is like by far the smallest of the 4. There are 2 that are rather large. 3 girls, 1 boy. The boy I've named Fenris, after the Norse wolf god who eats Odin and bites Tyr's hand off during Ragnarok. Brunhilde, who is the leader of the Valkyries, another Norse thing. And the second puppy that was born, I took pictures of that one being born, more pictures than I did video. She has a mark on her back that looks like a 2 or a Z. So I called her Zarita for little fox because of the Z on her back, or the 2 where she's the second one born. So, and they're all got personalities. They're all playful. I've kept them in a fairly large plastic tub. Before I left today, I put them into the bathroom, put down some pads, and blocked the door with a large suitcase so they can't get out. First time I've done that, so they got more space to run around. Actually, I think on the way home I'm going to stop somewhere and see if I can buy a dog bed, a large dog bed for them. Or maybe I'll just reuse one of the dog beds I have for now. You know, for such a tiny dog, Delight likes to spread out. And with all the puppies, she needs room to spread out now. So, well, I could keep talking, but I'm rambling. So that's all.